Welcome back to the Still Rolling Show. I'm still your host, Josh Allen, and today we are joined by Jeremiah Overman. Now, this is another episode where we meet some new friends. So Jeremiah, I think, geographically is our furthest away guest. Now, I'm just kind of guessing at that. But you're coming live from Cambodia right now, right?
Yeah, straight out of Phnom Penh.
Now, obviously, you're not from Cambodia. So let's start with where you actually originated from. Where are you from, buddy?
I moved around a bunch when I was a kid, but I'm from San Jose, California, and was living in San Francisco just before I moved here. So, yeah, mostly Bay Area.
I gotta say, it begs the question: how did you end up in Cambodia, mate?
Yeah. So like, I was working in San Francisco, and like I worked like 3 different jobs, and was like rent is like stupid expensive. It was like 2014, and I was like working all these jobs, and they were all like part-time, and like they were super cool. It was actually really sick. I was working at like an elementary school, at a cafe, and at a sex shop in the Castro. So it's like, it was like incredible. Like you like go to school.
They all look at the CV that you had. I was like, he's working at a school.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It was the weirdest thing, but but yeah, like, cause the cafe was like 10 to 2, and then the elementary school was like 3 to 6, cause it was like the after school program. And then from like 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., I was like at this like pretty, I mean, not sketchy, but like in, open.
I think you can pretty much say that most of those establishments have a degree of sketch to them, right?
Yeah, I mean, like they're open till 2 a.m. selling nail polish remover. Like it's a lifestyle, so it was good. But yeah, so I was like working all these jobs, and I had moved around.
With a view to what? Obviously, we haven't even gone into what it is that you actually do yet. We're going to get into that, of course. But with a view to what? Was this financing film projects you would get involved with? From my understanding, you're independent filmmaker, right?
Right.
So involved in all departments, or we just directing, we DoPing, or what bits and places do you get involved with?
Oh no, I mean then like so I went to film school right out of high school, and then after about 3 years, it was suggested to me by the administration of the school that I go somewhere else. So they asked me not to come back was that a stylistic
choice? Was that problematic from content-wise, what you were shooting, or what?
No, I mean, I think it's just like I wasn't really about it, and I was like much more interested in like extracurricular research. Like, I mean, I was just like a drug addict, so I wasn't really going to class, and like I was just like a burnout. So yeah, so I bounced around. Yeah, it was good. It's a good learning experience. It was intense. But I just bounced around and like did a bunch of weird stuff. So like before I moved here, I hadn't been doing anything really film related for a couple of years, like small stuff, like filming skateboarding with like a GoPro with my friends. But yeah, but so to get back, like I was like living in San Francisco, and like I had a good friend of mine, and he was like, oh, like I want to move to Thailand. And I was like, that sounds cool. Like, oh, I'm down. And then there was like a coup, like a government coup in 2014. And so my mom actually was like, well, what about Cambodia? And then as soon as she said it, she was like, why did I say that? And, and I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. I messaged my friend. And then, I don't know, a few months later, like we just showed up. So.
No way. So it wasn't just, no rhyme or reason, just very much like, let's go. Let's, pack up and get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, because the thing was, like, after because I was in film school in Portland, and I lived there for a number of years, but then like I moved around a bunch, like, and I lived in Hawaii for a bit, and I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for a bit, and then I was like back in the Bay Area, and I was like, I was sort of like, I want to move somewhere and like live somewhere. I was like 24, 25, and I'm like, I think I was kind of like. I don't know if like it was naive, because I think it was true, but I was like, I think now's the time. Like, I don't have a wife, kids, like anything. Like, I should move somewhere like wild. Like, I should do something like crazy.
Got an adventure, mate. Yeah.
Formative enough for it to change me or something. Like some sort of like this sort of logic behind it. And it was just like, you know, I mean, I can't be selling dildos forever, right? So like, gotta do something.
I mean, you know, it's a life choice, it's a career choice, but I can see why you effectively thought yourself, maybe I'll give something else a shot. Like, I've gone to film school. I mean, granted, in California, from what I understand, it's a pretty prolific filmmaking scene. So interested to sort of like go, you know what, to hell with that. I'm going to go to the other side of the world. I'm going to give it a go in a country that doesn't really have a properly established film industry at all.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, like, I didn't come here. Like, I was originally coming for 6 months, and I wasn't planning to do film.
Yeah.
Like, my buddy and I were like, oh, like, we'll get our TEFL certificates and just like teach English or something. And then it was like right before I moved here, I made this like 7-minute long like skate video with my friends with like Play-Doh titles and stuff, and I just had like a really good time doing it, and like it kind of re-sparked, you know, the thing, because I loved
inspiration.
Yeah. And so I sort of I mean, like, honestly, what I did was like made business cards that said filmmaker, and then like because of like the privilege that's associated with like being a foreigner in a developing country, like you know, it's people sort of take you at your word on that and it gets you in the door. So that went a long way. And I met like this psychotic, like, okay, I met this very interesting American guy,
right?
that wanted me to film a reality TV. He hired me to work for him full time to film a reality TV show about himself. And I did that for like 4 months for like $300 a month or something, which was amazing. And
I was about to say, there's plenty of money out there, no?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it was miserable. It was like super, it was not enough money.
Right, okay. Like, I'm learning it right now.
Yeah. It was pretty rough, but it was cool, because then I could like go back in and like relearn editing and relearn like the camera and stuff like this. So it was cool.
I love that that's the beginnings of what you've been up to, because I've done a little bit of research into what you've been up to and the kind of projects you've been involved with. I mean, I've been scanning through things. Annoyingly, the most recent thing that caught my attention was a music video you worked on in California. Literally called California, right?
Right.
So it's I think what's the best part about all of this is the fact that, you know, a big part of this show is looking at different walks of life in terms of understanding that there's a million different ways that you can have not only a career, but a life within film and all these different things. And it's just so funny how different people, like, you know, as you know, Bud, like some people, they like, I want to be a filmmaker through and through. I'm like 5 years old and that's all I ever want to do. And they commit themselves to study, and that's it. You know, they're very much like one dimensional and one, you know, singular focus. Yet, like from my own perspective, the most interesting and like the most creative, certainly, and somewhat, you know, tell the best stories, the people that have had a completely different experience. Like, have kind of found themselves in film, for want of a better word, by hook or by crook, kind of.
Right. Yeah. It's cool, man. Like because I remember like working like this, you know, it was like a big thing when I first got here, and I first sort of like like someone hired me to make a trailer, like a sort of Facebook commercial for their preschool or elementary school or something like this. And like I was like, I worked on it like for like so hard for so long, and it looks like super sketch. But I just remember like thinking about that, and like I spent like, because I guess this was the other thing also that sort of set this off, was like before I was working at Home Depot for like 2 years, and I worked in like the sickest department. Like I was like an order picker, so I didn't even have to wear like the vest or whatever. I just roll around like listening to like dubstep or something. And anyway, but the other guy in my department, I was like, yo, like how long have you been working here? And he's like 10 years. And I was like, and I did the math. I was like, so like you were 18 and you got this job, and now you've been here for 10 years. And I was like, oh fuck, like I don't think I can do that. Like I think I'll go crazy. Like I'm pretty sure. So he told me that, and within like a week or two, I like called in and was like, yeah, like I'm good, man. I'm gonna move on. And then
I had a similar experience. Like one of my first proper jobs was selling TVs out of this local independent store, and the two guys that employed me, I'm forever grateful to them for this, for employing me, by the way. But the two guys that work there, managing director and the manager of the store, have both been there since they were 16 years old, and they're both in their 50s and 60s right now.
Right.
And their whole life had been in that place. I was like, I'm respectful of your decision-making process, but this is not where I want to be. And even the guy that fixed the television sets up in the back room was like, what are you doing here, Josh? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
and I was like, you are right. Like, what do I want to be doing with my thing? And how does that contribute to me actually doing the thing I want to be doing? And obviously, you know, I was still full of filmmaking dreams at that sort of point in time. So they were like, what are you doing here, man? Like, go and do that instead. Stop wasting your time here.
Yeah, exactly. It's good.
That is funny. But I mean, getting onto it, you know, of course, now you've found yourself in Cambodia. You've been there for a number of years, counting 6 years in total, right? So for one, I can imagine that the infrastructure for simply like the accessibility to making films is not quite the same as it is in, say, the UK or the US in terms of like, you know, camera kit. I mean, rental houses, even the basics, getting hold of stuff. So like, where did you even begin with that?
Yeah, so it has changed a lot in the last like 2 years. I did a feature here like 2 years ago. I think it was like 2 years ago that we shot it. And
what was the position?
It's called Young Love. It's like
what was your position in the film then?
Oh, I was the cinematographer. I was the DP.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And on that project was like the production company bought an Alexa Mini, and it was the first Alexa Mini that was like owned by like a local like Cambodian company.
No way.
Right. And that's like 2 years ago, and now there's probably like 2 or 3 others, and like we have one LF. So like that's, you know, for the whole country. There's maybe like 3, a handful of Reds. There's like an Alexa Classic kicking around somewhere, and like I mean, there's not a lot in terms of like camera, and like the thing that I've seen most recently has been like a number of like production companies have heavily invested in cameras without such attention to lighting and like all of the grip that you really need, especially in a country where like you're the angle of the sun for almost like 80-90% of the day is like
straight up,
just straight down, just and like, you know, for, you know, anything like wide shots outside, it's like you either time the whole day around the few hours in the morning or the few hours in the evening, or like, you know, you got to fly like big shits, and like you know, this stuff's not here. So
mate, the irony is that people make those mistakes here a lot. Like I was having a conversation with a cinematographer called Bash Boygo, and he's part of the British cinematography over here, and kind of having these conversations. I was trying to pry out of him, like, how do you feel about the accessibility to cameras over here? Because obviously, you know, from our perspective, well, my own perspective, you know, seeing the craft be retained from people within the industry, from this like tight-knit group, and somewhat being brought in for those people that are respectful enough to like actually go and learn. But then there's this whole other side to it where like you can go and buy a camera and you can go and shoot, you know, but without any regard for grip, for light, for anything, like, and they're like, why is my image all full of noise?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. Like, this is like, well, I'm glad it's good to know that it's like, it's not a unique situation, that it's not like a unique experience, because like I haven't worked a lot professionally in other markets. So it's like, so most of my experience with most levels of production has been here. I've done a small, like I did like second camera on a TV commercial in LA last year. And I, you know, when I was in school, I was like a runner in the production office, which I got fired from, and like I was free. So like,
I'm getting fired from a free position.
Yeah, it was good, but you know, I've changed. Things are different now. Things are looking up. So
I want to make sure that's known. Jeremiah is talking for a position of professionalism right now.
Yeah. This is a long time ago, but I was experimenting. So
it's very important to understand those roots, for sure. It is.
Yeah, but it's good to know that it's not unique. But I think like I think many of the departments here, it's which I think is always I do feel like from what I read and like what I follow and stuff, I guess it must be fairly consistent. But it's like the departments like camera and maybe like directing, like the AD departments here are like phenomenal for the most part, which is great. But the ones like everything else like doesn't get the love that it should. Like locations, props, set design, wardrobe, like it doesn't get the level of like because the people that are doing it are the first generation. Yeah, they're like it's the person with the most experience. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We understand you are where you are, and we've got you on Zoom right now, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Is the pup doing us or?
No, he's cool, man. He's like, I'm watching my friend's dog right now, and he's like really scared. It's like,
oh, bless.
Yeah, he's terrible. But yeah, they're all the sort of which is great. They're the person with the most experience, maybe like 10 years, something like that. It's not like you have with grip and with gaffers as well. It's like you don't really have so many of those like Kaji like old time dudes that are like been doing it since like the 60s or something that you can kind of like glean information
from. I mean, it is important that we do talk about that a little bit, isn't it? Because the reality is quite simple. The UK has had an industry, as well as the US has had an industry that's been prolific for decades, since the dawn of cinema. But of course, Cambodia had some pretty tragic events in its history, which meant that era of cinema was not carried forward, right?
Right.
And that's the thing, is like, I mean, of course, you'll know better than me at the moment. And, I don't pretend to understand. I have a little bit of, information that I've understood from it, and I can sort of glean the rest. I can sort of interpret the rest. But it makes sense that with those events in history, that ultimately, without that staple of industry and foundation to grow from, things are going to be a bit held back, right? So the fact that
I mean, I think obviously so there for anybody that's not up to speed on it, if they're watching or something, like so there was like the Khmer Rouge, there was like the genocide here that specifically targeted artists, creative people, the educated class, and like,
culture in general, right? So we're talking about things across the board. We got music, we got sport, we got everything, right?
Right. So they're like specifically targeting these people and erasing them in whatever hopes they had for some fucked up society. And like the fall on that then was like, even when they were sort of pushed out of power, there was a lot of turmoil for a lot of years, and so things.
It's been on for decades, right? This wasn't like there was a little bit of a bad situation for a couple of years, right?
Yeah. I mean, even in like the 90s and stuff, and even the more recently, like in 2013, like the elections, like things have been getting better for sure, but things have been like rocky, and there's been a lot of like, I mean, there's been a lot of like poverty, and there's been a lot of like really hard living for folks, and so there's not always been like the market, there are people that want to spend, or people that can like spend money on going to the cinema. And I think like in spite of that, Cambodia does. Prior to the Khmer Rouge was like an artist and was like making these like really wonderful films, and I think like people like TV dramas are huge, and people really love them, and people really connect with them, and they're not the production value, the production quality is maybe not like the highest or the best, but people love stories, just the same like anywhere else, right? So it's like there is people really do enjoy seeing like their country like shown on the big screen, and like people really love it. Like,
I'm kind of intrigued by the whole premise, to be honest with you, because I mean, kind of sounds like I'm shitting on it a little bit with the accessibility of kit and cameras and stuff over here. Of course, it's a wonderful thing that young filmmakers can get hold of these things, but what does it mean to a generation of filmmakers coming through in terms of getting their voice heard, getting their stories told, and all these sorts of things? Whereas, like, I can only imagine that with limited access to resource for one. It's not just about technology and kit, resource physically to go and get, films, as you know, are not easy things to make. You've got to really have some intention to make them. So the fact that we have better resource and better availability to funding, short film funding, we have things like the BFI network over here, British Film Institute, and BAFTA, and all these kind of organizations which at least help best they can to encourage you to sort of think through your ideas and apply for funding. That just doesn't exist, right? So like in my head, I'm believing, that in that situation, if you want to make a film in Cambodia and you're a young up and coming filmmaker, you got to really want to do it. You got to really want to tell that story. It's not like an accidental thing. You've got to have some intent. You've got to have some dedication. And surely that means that, in my head anyway, theoretically, that better stories will come through because you've really got to want to do it. It's not going to take 5 minutes to make that film, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There are a lot of I think there are like a surprising number of opportunities for young like Cambodian filmmakers. You have like PSE, which is one of the schools here that has a really great film program, and like they specifically like support kids that might have a difficult time like getting like paying for an education somewhere else. One of the ACs that I work with, this kid named Kun, is like fucking the funniest dude I've ever met, and I met him like through like his work at PSE. So there's that. There's like Anti-Archive, who are producing like really beautiful, more art house, like not really commercial work. But they're also like they're telling like really like deeply personal, deeply like Cambodian stories.
Yeah.
And this is wonderful, and I think like. Also, like one of the production houses that I work with a lot, Chak, has like made an effort to like sort of like seek out directors that have not done a feature film before, because that's what they're looking for. They're like Chak is looking for the sort of like those new voices and like those new stories and like because it's amazing. It's like I think. For a long time, probably everywhere, right? Like the stories like that are being told are the stories of like the elite or like the people with the access, and then obviously, when the 70s hit and like Easy Rider and it sort of opened up, and then again like in 2006 or 2007 when the 5D Mark III came out and it opened up again, it's like you have these transition times, I guess. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of opportunities, like not as many for sure, but ease of equipment is everybody has a smartphone, like it's opening up in like a really great way, and people are finding their voices in like really amazing ways. And that's the thing for me. It's because I didn't come here as like a professional DP that like was doing all these commercial projects, because those guys come through and then they shoot their project and they go and like they make cool amazing work. But it's like, it's really cool. It's really like exciting and like wonderful time to be here and to like be around this and to like see just even the last like 2 years, the way that like that people are growing and experimenting and like really like finding themselves and like who they are, what types of stories they want to tell and how they want to tell them. And like being able to see it happen like so quickly is like, it's wild. And it's like such a microcosm too, because it's such a small community. So it's like, it's unbelievable. It's like, it's really, really special. And I'm really, really like honored and excited and like so happy that I get to be around it.
Well, I can hear it in your voice, and it's wonderful to hear it as well. That obviously, I mean, you're a man after my own heart. As a teenager and growing up, was like, dead set on screwing my life up. But then like, actually, you know what? I'm going to commit to doing something properly. And then like, just growing up, figuring life out a bit. But in your case, obviously finding an environment, a landscape with stories to tell, and you're a part of that. So yeah, mate, sounds great. What's it been like in terms of your experience as obviously a California native going over there? And like, obviously not, I mean, I don't know how much grasp of the local dialects you have. It's Khmer, right?
Yeah, Khmer. My Khmer is like tragically bad, which is like really fucked up. And in the last like month or two, I've started to like, I don't know what happened, but like all of a sudden it just hit me that it was like super fucked up that I wasn't able to read and write. And so I've been like taking lessons, and
Oh, good man. What's it like on set though? I mean, obviously we're talking about camera technical terms. We're talking about different, vernacular in terms of understanding, simply communicating on set, regardless of like.
I mean, the Khmer that I know is like tripod, lens cap, like highly
stuff.
Specialized, which is like not always the best, but I mean, it's cool. Like, I mean, a lot of people speak English here. Like, parents like really value their children learning English, and so like, a lot of the kids, like most everybody that I work with on set speaks like some English, and generally like the directors that I work with, I mean, all of the directors that I've worked with, like.
So you're spoiled, basically, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm spoiled. So like it's like, yeah, it's fucked up.
It's interesting to hear about things. I mean, what's been your, for want of a better expression, what's been your favorite project? Has it been something that's been a highlight of yours to work on and be a part of?
I mean, honestly, the last one that I just did, we did this music video called Demon for a singer here whose name is Vanda, and he's like super, super hot. Like everybody's like really into it. And it's like this, but like this kid, he's like young, he's like 22 or something.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's really amazing. Like this, I don't know. We got to do like crazy shit. Like we set a car on fire, and like I have this scene where he's like drinking gasoline and stuff. It's like, I mean, it's not like a technical masterpiece or anything, but like this dude was down to do like hella weird shit, and like he wanted to do this scene with like the stigmata where this girl's like pushing her high heel into him and stuff. And like, this kind of stuff, like I haven't worked with artists here that are like down, that want to do these kinds of things and sort of like push this envelope and like be seen in some way other than like, clean
conventional stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like those guys are out there, and there's definitely groups like Lasima Cartel and like Clap Your Hands, and there's other groups that are like definitely pushing it, like doing wacky stuff. But it was my first time working with somebody that like I aligned with so much in terms of like wanting to just do weird shit, just see what we could get away with. So this like project, and like, I mean, the song's great. So it's like, I'm really excited to work on this one. It's been like it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but super, super fun.
Do you find that, well, not necessarily the lack of willing to do that kind of weird shit, as you put it, is to do with the culture out there? Is it more conservative, or what's the deal? Is it traditionally a bit different?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's like part of it's like going back to what we were talking about before, of like sort of, a lot of the people that are doing stuff now are the first ones.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when you have people, when it's easy to like latch on to, I don't know, like for me, when I was like growing up, it's like easy for me to find the music that like I really connected with, because like people have been doing all sorts of crazy shit in my language for decades. And so, I sort of find your avenue. And maybe it's like a little bit more difficult, because like that, all those like subcultures haven't been like so fleshed out. So like, but I think
that's
like,
very interesting. Honestly, it's very interesting for a number of different reasons. Like you said, it's like kind of seeing how those other different environments that have had the time to like go, right, okay, cool, we got cameras and we got the ability to do anything here. And obviously from a location perspective, things have actually gone full circle, perhaps in UK, in the US, where it's like everything's health and safety, everything's like sensitive to a degree as well. Like you really got to think about what you're putting on camera. And I feel like that weird, like, I hasten to use the term freedom of speech, but arguably it is an element of that, isn't it? It's like, well, how controversial do you want to get in what you're doing? But the reality is it's not always with the view of being like just pushing boundaries for no reason, and there was definitely a moment in music video culture over here where it was like, right, we're going to do the most messed up thing in different ways because we just want to shock people and stuff like that. Whereas like the reality is it's an outlet, right? And different creatives, whether it be musicians or filmmakers, are all have always explored that throughout history, and again, it can continue to do so. So it's interesting to hear about.
Yeah, it's cool. It's why it's so exciting. It's like, it's really, really cool. it's special.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear about. It's just something from a creative perspective, because like, I don't know how you feel about, I mean, the other side of this conversation is interesting to me. Is become, I get the impression certainly that your move from, the US to Cambodia, obviously we've gone into it a little bit, wasn't financially motivated, whereas a lot of people get into, I mean, of course you didn't, first to say it wasn't necessarily your first intention to be a filmmaker over there. So last thing on your mind was necessarily having a career out of it. But most people, from my experience, kind of get this conundrum a bit messed up. They're like, I want to make money. I want to have a job as a filmmaker rather than I want to just make films and make them as good as possible. So it's kind of interesting to hear that, like, obviously from what I'm interpreting as your motivation wasn't necessarily like, I'm going to go over to Cambodia and get rich off them.
Right. Yeah. That was not the plan at all. Yeah. I was just like, I can shoot here, like I can just film stuff here, and even if I don't make a ton of money doing it, I can survive, but I get to make a movie. I'm not stacking plywood. What? Yeah, I was just really into it. I mean, I think I still am. It's it's definitely paying better now, which is not a problem. I don't hate that, but it's
what does work look like out there then? I mean, obviously you're on music videos and stuff, but is that paying work, or is that stuff you're just doing for fun? I have no comprehension of what a paying film, a job for a filmmaker would be like in that part of the world at all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so the music videos pay for themselves at best.
Yeah. So at least they're not losing money. No worries, bud. We good?
Now the neighbor's pissed. The neighbor dog is pissed too. Maybe I can bribe him with some chicken. No. All right, he gave up. I think
he gave up. Good man.
Yeah. So I mean, so you're asking about payment,
yeah, I mean the career really, because as I said, a lot of people over here, they kind of get this impression. I mean, YouTube has done no favors for this culture, because ultimately, I'm no kidding. My little brother's 19 years old, and when he was 16, 17, he's sees all these kids on YouTube that are making money from playing video games and stuff like that. I'm like, that's all well and good, but that is a small pocket of resistance. And it's great that there's a filmmaking culture that's delivering inspiration to people to want to become filmmakers. I love that. But at the same time, it's make films because you want to tell stories. And if you want to work in the technical craft, pick up a camera, go and learn how to use it. Great. But there's definitely a contingent of people that are I just want to make money. And it's a job. And it's that should come after eventually, maybe. But you definitely shouldn't have that as a central focus. And it's interesting to hear what the culture is reflective of that over there, really, to sort of I get the impression, perhaps romantically so, that there's a bit more sincerity and authenticity in some the motivation.
I think when it comes to music videos, it depends. I think so as far as money, your music video budgets are I think the highest budget music video I ever worked on here was $3,000, right? And that's for a major, a very famous, performer here.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm sure that there's higher budget. I know there was somebody that did a music video with an LF last year. I don't know what they paid for it, but they had Bentleys and Rolls Royces and shit in the video. But it must have been spending something on it. I don't know. All their friends. But I mean, at least in my experience, there's not really a lot of money in those. And also I think major brands in the country are few. There's not a ton of them. They value production quality and they value good work.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always like, and like, I mean, I swear it's just like a microcosm. It's just a smaller market from what it is like in the US or something. It's like, there's not many companies at the top that are like spending like 40, 50, 60, 100K for like a TV spot. It's like, right, there's like 3 companies or 4 companies, and then everybody else, like, they don't really value like the difference between like a $5,000 and a $25,000 TV spot, So I mean, it's like, it's an oversimplification to say that there's only like 3 or 4, because there are.
Of course, yeah, we can generalize. It's fine. You won't be held to account on this.
Right. But like, so I don't think it's always like valued as highly as it I would hope it would be. But there's like, it's possible to make like livable money, and like, you can do all right. It doesn't always trickle down as much, like a lot of the sort of like below the line positions, like they're working like their asses off, like props, wardrobe, like folks like this, like they're working like all the time, and they're not getting, I don't feel like they're making really like what they should be making in a lot of situations. But
is that infrastructure, is that likely to change? Is it going forward? Is it progressing?
Yeah, I mean, big time, man. Like, I think like really, I really noticed it change in the last 18 months. That's been like my experience. And maybe it's just that like I've sort of moved into like a different part of the market. And so like I'm around some like different people more, but it seems, but like also quality wise, like I see what like Run Suk Hang, who's another DP here, is doing. And I see what like some of the other directors are doing. And it's like, you can see like just this sort of like it's just sort of shooting up. And that's always, I think that the clients and brands are beginning to value this much.
Is there any kind of like, in terms of the distribution of, I say the features that you're working on, those sorts of things, like what's the end goal as far as the filmmaker's concerned? Is that, we're looking at streaming platforms, or what's, is there, cinematic release, theatrical release potential over there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, like, so it's actually really interesting. So the end goal for a lot of the features like that I've worked on is that like the production companies want the producers, they want the film to end up on a streaming platform or to get released outside of Cambodia. That's always sort of like a standard that people are like trying to get to. And it's tough. It happens, but it's tough. But something that's like really interesting about how the sort of, because there's also the cinemas here, and you can make like decent money in the cinemas here. But the way that like some directors, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, this was a lot more common than it is now. But like directors would basically like all the cinemas were individual cinemas. They weren't like AMC or like
proper independent cinemas. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, so the director would like shoot his, like take out loans from all his friends and stuff, make the movie, and then like put it, in a bag or something. And after he'd edited it and stuff, I don't know what he's carrying it with, like, but it's on a hard drive or DVD or something.
Yeah.
And then he would drive around to all the cinemas, like all over the country, and basically like plead with the cinema owners, be like, yo, like please, like my whole like life savings is in this film. Like, can you just run it in your cinemas for like a week, something? And it's like, and then they'd say yes or they'd say no, and then he'd pack up and like drive like to the next cinema and like go like all over the country like this, which is like fucking badass. Like,
that's so cool.
Like,
yeah.
Such a fucking raw way to like get your film seen, and like that's super.
That's a story right there. I can envision it immediately.
yeah, it's so awesome. And like, I mean, it's awesome to like think about it in practice. I'm sure it was. Like,
I'm sure it was a pain in the ass. Yeah, I'm sure it was a grueling task. Yeah.
but now there's a couple of like production houses, and like their cinemas are much more sort of organized.
Gotcha.
You don't have to do this as much
Wow,
anymore.
I like the idea of that. Sounds cool. But I guess so we're answering that question that the infrastructure is suddenly like becoming a bit more legitimized in that regard, and I guess I'm particularly intrigued because Of course, yeah. Again, that whole landscape has changed in terms of like, I was talking to a few different people about it. Like, what's the end goal for cinema when you think about it? Like, my boyhood dream is like, oh yeah, let's get my movie into a theatrical release. But the reality is changing so much. It's like, well, how realistic is that? If you haven't got a blockbuster as an independent filmmaker, like, is that really a tangible goal? And under what kind of pretext? What kind of situation is that imagined in? Streaming is very much like the kind of the more realistic and tangible goal from a lot of different people. But kind of interesting to see like that there's still that stuff is moving forward with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a bit different in Cambodia. Like, I don't know too much about like what happens about that side of things, but I know that it is still like profitable. I shot a movie that the budget was like $15K or something, right? And like through theatrical release alone, the guy, I don't know what he made back, but he at least like triple, double.
It made money, right?
Yeah. So it's like, it's like it's totally doable, and it's like kind of wild. You're like, I'm gonna go like shoot this movie for like 15 grand, and then the cinemas are just like, yeah, all right, we'll play it. Like, you're like, well, okay, cool. I mean, it looks pretty good. It's like you did a good job.
Well, I'm sure.
Still,
that's the thing. I mean, yeah, it becomes really interesting to see like how far that money goes in a different world. Is that you can kind of assume
that money went super far, dude, because we burned down a house in the first cut of the film, and then like the whole ending like didn't work, so we went back and we shot the whole movie in 12 days or something, and the end of the film, it's like we burned down this house and it's like fucking crazy. It's like it was total chaos, and then edit the movie, and like 2 months later we're like watching the movie or something, just like, yeah, like this movie just like the second half just doesn't work. So we went back to the location for 2 days, and we shot for like 40 hours or something, and just reshot like 30 or 40 minutes of the film, like a completely new ending and stuff. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's amazing though. I mean, honestly, it's very inspiring, if I'm completely straight. Like, it's really easy to get disillusioned in this kind of, hasten said British mentality, where it's like, oh, you need £1 million to make a movie and all that sort of stuff. And if you haven't got that, you've got no chance, because everything kind of, regardless of how much you want to remove the elements of saleability to it, you want to be true to the fact that you just want to make a story and make a film. It still requires you to commit a lot of time yourself, as well as everybody else on set. And to a degree, you kind of have to have that kind of sewn up before you hit record. Let alone the thought of going like, oh yeah, we messed up the ending, let's go and shoot the last 30, 40 minutes again. Like, try getting those actors back again. Try getting the same people back again,
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, there's a lot that's like really cool about it. It's like, but I think it's also probably some like grass is always greener type stuff, because I would love to work on a project where, the budget allows for me and the director to focus almost solely on that for, at least like a month or 2 months of like pre-production. Like, we don't have to do
actually get your ducks in a row, actually get your life figured out. Yeah. I guess that's the other side of it as well. What kind of compromises are you making within that time frame? It's all well and good, like I said, grass and greener. It's all well and good being like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Let everyone's on board and everyone's kind of, Heath Robinson it, getting sorted out and going, throwing caution to the wind and just going and shooting a film. But the reality is, you end up doing a lot of things yourself, not necessarily getting your, visualization sorted out beforehand and kind of making it up as you go along. And that's, for me, that's the joy of filmmaking. But at the same time, I can completely understand that, like, having a bit more, a few more resources to sort of spread around might make life a little bit easier for a number of reasons.
Yeah. But it's like, but at the same time, like you said, it's like so great to do that. And it's like, you're like, oh man, like I just went and like this weekend, it's like, it sort of like really makes you sort of snap and realize like, oh, like that's it. Like, that's how you make a movie. And like, if there's any faults, it's like, what, I don't know. It's like you just make a movie. Like, that's like when you want to make a movie, you just like fucking barge it. And like, even if it's not like, I don't know, like Citizen Kane, at the end of the day, you just like get out there and like, you just fucking like. But
it's how you learn, right? That's the thing, you have to go out and do it. Otherwise, I myself get stuck in this conundrum. I've been writing my screenplay for like 4 years, and I'm taking pleasure in the fact that it's okay. People take longer to do that. I'm like, but at the same time, I want to get out and shoot it. I don't want to be writing it forever. And it's like so easy to get caught up in that sort of things when it's like, well, actually, let's go and do it. You know, writing stuff beyond your initial means, or writing stuff that requires a bit more resource, just generally speaking. And it ends up being something you can't achieve without a lot of resource. So I feel like that's the other side of that is something that's really cool. You can go out and just get stuff done.
I was talking to someone today about this. Like, one of the directors that I've worked with a bunch here is this guy named Jimmy Henderson. He made like Jailbreak, which was made it to Netflix out of Cambodia. It was the first movie to do that. Super cool guy. And like,
I feel like we don't want to skip over that. That's a big deal.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. You should. It's on Netflix still. It's like wonderful. Trago, if you watch Trago's YouTube channel, Trago like fucking loves that movie. So
well, there you go. Nice little shout out. I'm glad we're able to shout that out.
Yeah. But yeah. So but this dude Jimmy, like, he just like grinds out. He's just like, it's like, okay, boom. Like last year, I don't know, we were talking, we were sort of like, he was like bouncing around the idea of like doing a movie in like July or August or something. And then he's just like, yeah, like, you know, I kind of want to make this movie in like October. And then he just like comes back a few weeks later and he's like, yeah, so like I wrote this script, and then like we sat down and like went through the script a bunch of times, whatever. And then like at the end of October, like then we just shot it, and like that's it. And then he just starts editing. It's like, you know, I'm like, fuck, man, because I've done the same thing where like I have a Google Drive full of like it's the same story, the same idea. It's like I have like 17 versions of like, I'm starting the script, I'm starting the outline.
Developed, yeah.
Yeah, and like this dude is just like, just do it, bro. Like, we should do it live. Fuck it, we'll do it live. And I'm like, all right. Yeah. And it's like,
it's to learn a lot about yourself in that process, I guess.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's fun. It's like, I totally admire this. Like, to just be able to be like,
oh mate, that is the absolute terminology I use. Admiration for sure, because that's the thing, isn't it? I could all learn a lot from that attitude. Just go out and get it done. Because why not?
Yeah. This guy is great, man. He's like, it's just, there's like nothing that like cannot be done. It's like, yeah, I don't know. This guy is like problem solving skills, and like, just like, we're gonna do it. Like we did another one. This is like the craziest shit that I've ever done, filmmaking related. It's like, we did a movie.
Out with it.
We did, dude, it's fucking unbelievable. We did like last year, I guess it was last year. Like we did this movie for the Chinese market. It's like an action movie, and like they sent us the script 2 weeks before we started shooting. The star was the producer, and they sent us the script 2 weeks before we started shooting in Chinese. And so we run the script, like the 100 pages, through Google Translate and print it out. And we started doing our breakdown, and like I had to like
literally Google Translate the Chinese scripts. What the hell?
Straight up, dude, it was bonkers. And we do the full breakdown, like we're finding locations, and it's like we're shooting in like 3 different cities for like a month. Like it was complete chaos. And like 2 days, I was the only one on the crew with a US passport. So like 3 days before we start shooting, I flew to Los Angeles and stayed there for like less than 36 hours to pick up the camera and lenses, and then flew back and like started shooting like the next morning. And it's like, you know, it's like, I mean, it's bonkers. And like, you know, if we'd had more time, for sure, we'd have like a better product. But it's also, it's like, fuck, dude, like, oh man, like you feel so alive, dude. Like,
oh yeah, that does sound like a fun thing to be involved with. Like, no doubt about it. I mean, it's so funny. It like resonates all of the traumatic experiences I've had, but at the same time, they're the most fun by miles, you know.
Yeah, right? Where you're just like, fuck it, like this is it, like, you know, it's like, and it's dope. And it's the best thing about like when you work on features, right? Is it just like, you don't have to think about anything else. You just are like, hey, so this is like my life now, you know?
That's cool. Seriously, it's seriously cool to hear about it, because like, yeah, just for all the reasons, really. It's really, really cool to hear that you guys have got that spirit maintained out there. It's like, just get on with it, because why not?
Yeah, people are down, man. Like, I mean, like, you know, it sucks. Like, we worked our asses off. Like, the food was like really fucked up on that project. But whatever. Like,
but food you'll forget, right? And then when you look at the film, you'll forget all about that in a few months, like how sucky the conditions were and how hungry and tired you were.
Man, like, I don't know if, I watched that film and I just wonder, like, what is happening in this movie? Like, what?
And you were the cinematographer?
Yeah, man. Dude, this movie is amazing, dude. It's like I hope that this movie becomes like a cult classic. It's incredible. You have like people speaking Chinese to like somebody like speaking Thai, but like they understand each other, and it's like, man, it's like fucking great.
Artistic license, I think we call that, creative license, right?
Yeah, for sure. Creative
you guys send us a trailer of this so we can play it right now, because we need to see this. We can't leave the audience. You have to send it to me right now. It's okay. We can put it over afterwards. It's fine.
I'll see if I can find a trailer. It's on. I'm sure there's one on like some weird like Chinese YouTube or something. But
amazing.
Sick.
You must have some pretty cool stories about, like, I don't know, grip kind of getting out of control. Surely, like, you must have had to employ some pretty creative methods of getting cameras in different places and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, lots of like, it's just sort of like the shitty rigs Instagram,
Is that just you guys? Is it? We've finally got it, audience. We've discovered the originators of the shitty rigs on Instagram account.
But I mean, like, it's not always like this. Like, like we do have like, we have like menace arms, and like we have, solid like car rigs and Jimmy Jins and this type of thing. But I mean, a lot of the time it's like pretty funky stuff. Like when we burn the car, I guess that's more like special effects than crib. But when we burned the car, like I was like, should we hire, like, I was like, because I also sort of like was producing this one. I like shot and directed it, but I was also like producing it, so it's like kind of fucked up. But it's a lot of work, and I don't recommend this. But,
don't advise that, yeah.
I was talking to the AD and was like, should we get like a fire truck or something to, in case the fire gets out of control? And she's like, sounds expensive. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I think it's okay. Like, we can just ask the people like that live nearby to like stand by with like buckets of water. And I was like,
I love that. Just buckets of water to put out a fire in case it gets out of control.
Right. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna trust you on this one. Like, sure thing. And so we ended up like having like 5 fire extinguishers at least, and then like we burned the car, and it was the scariest experience. And then everybody's like trying to put out the fire, and all the fire extinguishers are finished, and the fire's still going.
Yeah, I figured that might have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lesson there, isn't there? Like, any independent filmmakers out there thinking, oh, you know what? We'll just set a car alight.
Right.
There you go. Jeremiah's done it for you, and he's learned that lesson for you.
Yeah, don't do this. It's like, dude, but it's like, it's great, but it's like the props guy. Like, I asked him, I was like, yo, do you know how to do this, right? I mean, this is like fucked up. I'm sure there's like gonna be some old timer in the comment section that's like, oh, this is completely irresponsible. And like, oh, it's like, yeah, for sure, but fuck it, like. But I asked the guy that was going to be doing the fire. I'm like, yo, like, you're good. Like, you burned a car before or something. Like, you know how to like do this. He's like, my dad's a firefighter. And I'm like, okay, like, cool. But,
I love that. That's the diligence as well. It's like, oh yeah, my dad's a firefighter. It's cool. That qualifies you to set fire to a car. Done.
Right, dude.
No more questions asked. Carry on.
Yeah, and he did it. He fucking knocked it out of the park, dude. I think it looks awesome. So.
I feel like we need that footage as well, so we can see what it looks like a car burning.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Please.
That video is. Yeah.
Please do. I mean, that is some funny stuff. But it's stuff after my own heart. If I'm honest with you, we pretend to conform to these kind of like health and safety margins. I mean, I had an health and safety supervisor on this show not even that long ago. And I understand like where he's coming from, because the reality is when it comes to people's lives and personal injury, it's a different ballgame. But like a lot of it's to do with insurance, and a lot of it's like red tape for the sake of red tape. So I understand that there's like a trade-off here. Like, absolutely, I do not condone the endangerment of human life at all. But at the same time, if you've made it as safe as you possibly can now and taken necessary precautions to make sure you can pull it off, it's like, come on, we're all adults here. None of us is going to go and jump in that burning car. It's like we're going to be a safe distance. If we're going to shoot, we're going to think about what lenses we're on, what precautions we're going to take for personal safety to make sure that we're not in harm's way. We'll do the best we can.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, you couldn't do that somewhere else.
Yeah. We did take this. I mean, we removed the gas tank. We removed the motor. Like, we drained all the fluids. Like, we stripped the interior. Like, there was no, like, we wasn't just like complete chaos. Like, just pour gasoline on it.
Just watch it go up. Throw a match in and see you later.
See what happens. Stick a GoPro side and fuck it. Like, I mean, no, it's like we did take precaution. Like,
I feel like if we are being bad influences here, just for the record, diesel burns better than petrol. Petrol, very, very flammable, will light from a distance. Diesel's a little bit more stable fuel. So if you must, just do some research.
You heard it here, man. It's like, good, dude. It's good.
What's coming up for you guys at the moment? Have you got any features in the works?
Nah, well, Jailbreak 2 is going to happen at some point. I don't know, like COVID is getting funky with that. But that has been announced also. I'm not spoiling anything. It's been published. I'm working on some some super fun, this like branded content for like a beer company. And we're doing, it's super fun. It's definitely like pretty renegade stuff, like running around and doing like stealing shots and things like this, but it's really fun. We're mixing like a ton of different formats. So like we're shooting anamorphic, spherical. We're shooting with the mini DV. We're shooting like photos and like just all sorts of stuff. So it's really, really exciting, and it's like a cool, like, it's not high key, not a glossy look. It's like a very like just kind of like vibey, like kind of gritty cool feeling, and it's all based around the story of like this singer. And like his rise, so it's cool. It's really, really fun. But
what kind of like access do you have to the lenses and stuff out there? I mean, we obviously talked a bit about kit already, but it's kind of intriguing. Do you have rental houses where you can go like, oh cool, I want that set of anamorphics, or is it a bit of a limited supply, or what's the deal?
I mean, like not for anamorphics. Like, no, you can't really get anamorphics in country. They have to be brought in.
Right. So you're jumping back to LA and doing a 36-hour round trip and coming back.
yeah. Because, dude, but it's crazy. The prices in LA are out of control, man. Like, it's like unbelievable how inexpensive it is to rent camera. But because like we could have just flown to Thailand or something, but it's like it still ended up being cheaper to like fly, stay in a hotel, come back. But anyway, there's lenses here, like there's ultra primes, master primes. There's like some old Zeiss. There's like some CP2s, CP3s, but that's kind of it, right? And like I own a set of like cards that I use like, on almost everything because like, I don't know, I like them. They look nice.
Mate, you can easily get caught up on lenses. It was more just out of intrigue because obviously you mentioned anamorphics. I'm personally a big fan of anamorphic lenses. I was just intrigued to see what kind of accessibility you had out there.
Oh yeah. No, it's ISCO Ultrastar, man. The red.
Okay, cool. So your scopes and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, to be fair, very inexpensive way of getting hold of things, but I'm surprised you can still get those. That's not necessarily the most forthcoming things you can get over here either, to be fair. You've got to try hard to find good scopes.
Yeah. We got it, my buddy got it through eBay or something like that.
Okay. Shipped over or something, yeah?
Yeah. That's cool.
I mean, man, we could get real nerdy about that stuff, but we'll leave it well alone.
That's exciting.
Tell me about this music video you did in California, though. I forget the guy's name. Jay Wiles?
Jay Wise. Yeah, it is.
What was your role, first and foremost?
But I shot and directed it. There was like a crew of one. It was it was.
I was intrigued because I watched it and I was like, this is really dope. And it reminds me of like this era of music video where people gave a shit about it. And I haven't seen a good music video in a while. I'm not kissing your ass there, but I generally sincerely mean that. Like, having watched it, I was like, there's a handful of really, really, really good music video directors. Sam Pilling in the UK is actually one of them. And he did a bunch of stuff with Run the Jewels and people like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool stuff. Just really cool, really, for want of a better explanation. And when I watched this video of yours, I was like, hold on a minute, it's got a bit of that quality to it. And it's just like cool. I was particularly intrigued by, you said it's got a small crew in that. Like the first shot of the guy tied up in the back, who's like obviously miming along, but singing along. I was like, this is like really good. Who was this guy?
Oh yeah, dude, that's my buddy Chad, bro. Is like, sorry, fuck. Thanks, Chad. Like we used to talk so much shit about Chad because he like got really earnest for a while. But yeah, it's Chad Heisler, dude. He's fucking legend. He's like the coolest guy ever, and he's like the most.
Is he an actor?
No, he's like a carpenter.
You're joking?
No, yeah, he's a carpenter.
Legit good, like really good.
Yeah. He's unbelievable. He's like a natural. It's crazy.
Like really? What was this? What was the? How did you get involved with this? Was this like a buddy who's the artist, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so my girlfriend Martha, who Charlie knows as well. Like, it's her brother, and so we were in California, Martha and I, and he had the song for his album called California, and he was like, "Oh, it'd be sick if you could shoot something." And he's like, I think he's like, I have like no budget, and I was like, "Oh, fuck it, dude! Like that sounds really fun. I like music videos." And like he's not there, and actually like the Run the Jewels thing, because like that video for Nobody Speak has like stuck in my mind, man. Like with like the old men like doing the rapping, it's like I love this like so much. Like I love this like non sequitur. Like I love it so much. And so yeah, I was like, I'll just get Chad, and Jules was the woman in the video. To do the lip sync and like
I loved it. Like I loved it. I got that from it right away. It was like completely reminiscent of that. I was like, that's really cool. But then like of course, Run and Jules Nobody Speak videos like takes it to a political level, and like I mean they had money, they had actors, they had there's different ball games. So like the fact that you guys have achieved that with nothing basically, it's like such a testament to you guys' work. Seriously, really, really good work.
It's like a hi-hat and ratchet straps and my police car. That was it. It was sick.
What did you shoot on?
The Ursa Mini Pro with my Leicas.
Nice. That looks really good. You graded stuff yourself, or?
No, my buddy Pennant, the guy I share an office with, he graded. Yeah.
It looks really strong. Like, looks super strong.
Yeah, thanks, man. I was a little bit like because at the time I was like really pushing that like cyan look in the sky, and like I think like I watched it again like maybe a week after I released it, and it was like kind of intense, like a little bit intense. But I think like I
personally, I really, really like it. I honestly think it's not overdone. Like what was one of my comments was going to be like, there's totally a look there that a lot of times gets pushed a bit too far, and it's like just perfect amount, just like spot on, nailed it. So like honestly, it looks really, really good.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man.
Nah, mate, you're welcome.
We tried to like embrace the fact that there's no crew, so it's like tripod.
Yeah, but it just, I mean, apart from at the end there, when a gentleman walks in front of your guy that's looking out over the bridge, was quite funny. I was like, is that intentional, or was that like he just turned around like, this guy's here?
Yeah. Dude, that's my dad, bro. That was my dad. Yeah, because I was just like, Chad and Jules are like my friends, and so I was like, okay, like take stock of what you have, right? And I was like, well, I have like 2 friends in the whole world because like I'm an asshole, and I have my dad and my mom, but my mom didn't want to be in it, so like, and it was great. Man, it's really cool. My dad like fucking killed it though. It's like the timing. He like the guy walks and he looks, and I was like, all right, dope, dude. Like,
man, I'm kind of jealous. Like, I'm kind of jealous of your thing here, man. Because like, so many times I'm like, I don't want to ask my buddies. I don't want to do this, and I feel like I'm making excuses all the time. And I'm like, I want to get out and do these like just run and gun dirty projects. I've got no excuse at all.
Right.
Like right now, I'm trying to put together this BMX film as part of like a bit of a project. I wanted to do it anyway because like I kind of grew up around BMX and skating and stuff, anyways. But didn't know how to use cameras at the time. So like right. I kind of wanted to go back to that and be like, I learned how to use cameras. I've got all this wonderful kit, but also I want to just go and shoot it. Now, one of the premises I wanted to do was I wanted to take some lights to a concrete park at night where it's got a bit of a bowl and all these things. So I was like, right, this will look really cool. Some really nice high contrast shadows across the place that just illuminate the curvature of the bowl. And we'll get I got like some friends who are some serious riders. I'm like hassling them on the phone, like, we need to go and shoot this. We need to go and shoot this. But at the same time, I'm like, also, this is an expensive camera and these are lights. And are we in danger? Are people going to rob us? Because we're here at like 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I think it was like, I mean, but you should totally do it because that sounds sick. Like, especially like in the bowl, that sounds super tight. But I think it helps that I live in Cambodia, so it's like I don't come back too often. So when I did, it's like I'm like, oh, what's up? Hey, man, like it's really
good. Things with fresh eyes a bit, right? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And then also like for them, it's like they're like, I was like, hey, like, you guys want to hang out? And they're like, sure. And then when I meet them, I'm like, pull out my camera and I'm like,
I love that you just like basically trick them into it. Yeah.
Yeah. They're sick, dude. They're sick. They're cool. They went for it. So.
I got to take these lessons from you, buddy. I got to like just get out there and do this stuff. Like I said, though, it's too easy for me to be like, oh, I need this, I need that. I'm like, no, I just need the camera and I need my buddies. But I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's getting there. Like, we've kind of got a bigger picture in mind with that stuff as well. Like, I would love to do some little workshops and stuff that like show whoever. Like, I have conversations with like people's kids and stuff all the time. They're like, oh, my kid loves filmmaking. He would love to come and hang out with you. I'm like, that's great, but it's not always straightforward on like a professional film set because like they've got to come, they've got to be insured, they've got to be that, you got to get them there, all this sort of stuff. So I thought doing this, what I could do is like, right, this is what you can pull off in a local open skate park. And this is what you can do if you like put some time into it. Of course, you've got resources, but I'd love to like be like, right, let's actually go down to the skate park with some cameras and let's just have some fun and learn. And that would be kind of cool. So that was kind of the slightly bigger picture. So even more excuse to be like, right, we actually have to get out there and do this stuff because there is another motivation to it.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. What's the guy like? It's like I grew up around filming like skateboarding, like shooting a bunch of skateboarding as well, and like I haven't really shot any of it like professionally. Like I've only ever shot skateboarding with like a VX or
I think it's called Mini DB or something, right?
Yeah, or like with like it seems so hard. There's a Ty Evans like has like. He's got it figured out with like how to make it look like wild and rad and like cinematic type shit. But like it seems like I see it done like so much, like in TV commercials or something, and you're just like,
and they get it wrong because they're like, oh cool, we get a professional athlete, and then they don't get a director that knows how to talk to them or what the hell they want to try and achieve. So like, just ride a skateboard down that street. It's like, not really right.
yeah. It's like, it's wild, but that sounds sick. I mean, it sounds like it'd be super cool to do something like conceptual around skateboarding. It's like you ever see that Running Mullen thing with the slow shutter?
Yeah.
Where he was on the thing? That thing was trippy.
Seriously cool. It was for a big brand or something. I feel like that was like, took it away from that a little bit, but I was like, at the same time, this is seriously amazing. Like it was just a studio, right? And then like you said, slow shutter. Like I was blown away by that sort of stuff. And it's just, nice to see cinematic and photographic techniques used in that way. So they create that like blur and stuff. Have to link that up as well because that's a really cool like stuff like that. I mean, one of the things I saw recently was what's it called, some kid in the States, Johnny something, he's Johnny FPV on Instagram. He's changed now because he actually put his name on there, but he did the FPV thing with the little flight chasing a pro boarder, Niger, I believe. Chased him with the FPV drone down the stairs. I was like, what? Like I'm just getting on my board with an easy rig and my camera and like figuring it out like, this is sketchy. And then this guy's like, oh yeah, you think you were getting good and you're trying to do cool stuff. I'm just going to fly an FPV drone after this guy.
Yeah, that's wild. Dude, but so I did a shot, I did a music video like last month or something where I tried to ride a skateboard with an easy rig and it was like super fucking hard, man. Like
it's not easy.
I just ended up doing it like handheld, like still on the skateboard, but just like by holding the top hand.
Yeah, I was shooting a little bit blind. I had to very much pick my focal length quite intelligently and sort of like figure it out. And then just like more practice got slightly tighter and slightly more compact on the frame each time until a point where I was marrying the focus and that sort of stuff. But again, if you have like, got an AC or something who's rocking your focus for you, then of course it's a bit of a different ball game. You just got to focus, like worrying about the framing. I'm lucky that my camera's got a nice big monitor on it, so like even when you are shooting blind, at least you can roughly see your framing. You can kind of just focus on not falling over. I nearly fell over a couple of times though, so
that's cool.
Nah, it's fun to be able to incorporate those bits of like kind of the other way around, right? Like old tech literally is like, right, throw together a bit of a dolly with a skateboard or whatever, and kind of like some half-assed steady cam to get sort of a semi-steady sort of shot going on, like without having to worry too much about technology. Because it's really easy to get caught up in that stuff, as we said. Especially over here where like there are departments for the craft that we have to honor, and it makes sense to have certain people, like no doubt about it, having a solid crew that knows what's going on and which parts of what do what are amazing, like having a terror deck with a remote signal sending to a monitor so you can see what's going on, so you don't have to be in the action. Like no doubt you can get some amazing stuff, but I always found that like that was somewhat like slightly one step removed from the process. So I'm trying to work out how I can incorporate both of those worlds with the technology side of it.
It's a tough balance, hey? Like it's really tough to keep that. Like I'm really impressed by I worked with a DP that's based in Vietnam named Ray Lavers, and he's like super sick. He came to do like a Coke TVC, and I did like second camera for him. Yeah. But he's really got like a beautiful way of shooting his handheld stuff and like getting and keeping that sort of like vibe of like that sort of running gun, like, you know, renegade type of vibe, like through the way that like that he's moving the camera. But in a very like controlled and like repeatable way. It's like I was like really like impressive. I really liked working, like seeing the way that he's doing it, because I think it's like such a, like, you know, it's like so amazing to be able to like I was just really impressed to be able to like control it and repeat it and be able to do
that's the other thing as well. It's easier to sort of like throw the camera around and run with it, but it's a different ball game to get the same take again.
Right. It's like, and I was like, I mean, I was like, oh, damn, like, you know, and then he was telling me like, oh, you should watch the Sean Bobbitt like handheld thing, and I was like, oh, yeah, sick. And then I just started watching like all these like these guys, like YouTube guys talking about shooting handheld. Yeah, it was super cool. Oh,
was that more of a tutorial that you recommended?
No, it's like an airy talk or something. It's it's just like a workshop, I guess. Like, so Sean Bobbitt's the guy that did like Place Beyond the Pines and a bunch of other films.
I'm familiar.
He just like nerds out about shooting handheld. Like he's just like a complete like lunatic about. I mean, it's great. It's wonderful. Maybe he's not a lunatic. Maybe I'm just like an asshole that's just just fucking run down the street.
I always appreciate a good resource, because I mean, one of the things I'm talking about on the show quite frequently is like how we're all learning, how we're like, what kind of resources do we have available to us? But so I'm always like, you know, YouTube's great, and it's all well and good having like some filmmakers that are putting out these different videos about different tutorials. But like, I'm always going back to like Ari or whoever. Like BAFTA over here is really good. You know, BAFTA have put out various talks with different filmmakers about different things. It's like, those are your credible resources. These are the people you should be listening to. Like, definitely compound your skill set and craft knowledge with other smaller bits. But for the most part, like, there's like, you know, go and look up your favorite DoP from your favorite movie that you like the look of. And what are they doing? They probably have put out some kind of workshop for someone or something. So I'm always trying to compound this.
Hell yeah, man! Those airy ones in particular are really nice. There's like Sean Bobbitt's great.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, Jeremiah, thank you very much for giving us the time today.
No worries.
We could be talking about all of the things we just have been talking about and getting real nerdy for the rest of time, but I'm also cautious that you have an early call time tomorrow, so I don't want to keep you up all night, because I realize the time difference is a little bit significant over there. In the lap of luxury in the middle of the afternoon here, you're just like nighttime there, and you've been at work all day, so I feel kind of bad.
It's all good. It's fun. It's cool. I'm really glad that you asked me to come on. It's strange, but it's excellent. So thank you.
Oh, look, seriously. As you found out a little bit about me, that are cut from the same cloth once upon a time. Like, and it's really good to hear people that have like just, you know, been on that destruction path of trying to screw their life up. Because I mean, if I'm honest, when I started that journey, I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it. And I feel like that's a lesson that people don't understand. Like, oh yeah, like it's not that conventional. It's not that straightforward. Like, it's really easy to look back on things retrospectively and go, oh, there was resources. I could have gone to film school. I could have done this or whatever. But also when you're a kid, guess what? You don't have any respect or appreciation for those things.
Right.
If you're a little asshole like us, you know, and that's the thing. But you know, the biggest part of that is that, you know, your evidence of the fact that you found a pocket of the world that fits you down to the ground, and the evidence of your work is just that. You know, it's really great to see the cool stuff that you guys are putting together and putting out. So like, mate, fair play to you. Seriously, it's really cool to hear that you guys are doing fun stuff and getting out and then doing it. Like the feature film stuff is so cool to hear about, that you guys are literally like, oh yeah, we've got 15 days, we'll shoot a whole feature. And then like the ending didn't work out, so we'll go and shoot some more. Like, what?
Yeah.
People will be terrified of doing that here. Like they really, really would. Like there's a handful of like a real cool contingent here, like amateur filmmaking, like little groups and local communities, which are great. But their ambition is seldom fulfilled because of all the wrong reasons. And it isn't for lack of talent. It's just for the fact that like things are hard for different reasons over here. Like it's hard to get people to just wake up and commit their time. Like people are just a little bit less willing to go and, you know, stay awake all night for 3 weeks. You know, and shoot some stuff.
Like totally reasonable for sure.
Of course, but mate, you know, at the end of the day, we're only young once, and when we're talking about making cool stuff, that's the time when it's made. When you've just gone, I'm going to go and have an adventure, and I'm going to make something, and I'm going to just point the camera at some stuff and get out there and do it. And a lot of people are very afraid of just cracking on with things because they're afraid that they're going to make some shit work or whatever it is. And, you know, I feel like I just need to implore people just to get out and get done things. And the fact that...
Hell yeah, man. I think like that was the biggest thing for me as well. Like when I was like in film school and like, and even still less so now because like, you know, I don't know, you're just older, you don't give a fuck so much, but like insecurity, like seeing what the work that the other people that I was like in film school with were doing and just being like, I'll never be able to like do this sort of thing and stuff. Like this played into it like so much for me. It was like such a major like hurdle. Like, I mean, it just totally like crippled me, like, you know, because I just was like super insecure and like, yeah, just couldn't swing it and stuff. And so, you know.
Man, I completely get it. I mean, look at the yardstick that people are judged on.
Right.
Like if in Hollywood, it's financial. You know, if you look at the internet, like you put your film out there and it gets 100 views, you're like, oh, that must be shit then. Like, or it's not like heralded, or like you submit it to a film festival and it doesn't get picked or something like that. It's like, well, it must suck then. Well, you know, odds are that you just didn't have a relationship with the film festival, and like little things might be standing in the way. You might have missed a deadline, or you might have been too early or too late, or it just wasn't right for the festival. It might not be that the work sucked at all. It just might not, you know, might have submitted to the wrong category. It's so many different things that can hold people back that they're just not even aware of. But like you said, it's so easy to go just hold yourself back and be like, oh, I'm never going to be that good. Like there's this industry over there and it's like, I'm not a part of it. I'm on the outside. That's the inside over there. Where do I even begin?
Right. Yeah, man, it's fucking tough. But I think just barge it. Yeah, just barge it. Just fuck it.
Mate. As I said, you are absolutely a product of this situation, which is great. And to hear that you've done as much work as you have been, and then the fact that you've got more stuff coming up is really, really cool. So, mate, thank you for sharing your stories with us. Say hey to the dog for us and make sure they're doing cool.
Yeah, I'll give him some chicken.
But we'll make sure we share your trailers and share your footage as well, so the audience can see stuff, and we'll make sure we put some stuff out. So.
Yeah, cool. I'll send you the links.
Please do. Please do. Dude, we'll let you crack on, all right? Have a good night, bud.
Later.
Bye, bud.
Bye.